Hello, this is Grian and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Hermitcraft Season Clockwork. We're going to be reading the last one for now. Though I have plans for writing more stories, it's just right now, I'm waiting until finals are done. Once finals are done, I can focus on writing. I don't have much, but I can't talk about it now because that's not what we're here for. That's not what you're here for. You're here for the awesome epic stories, not the personal stuff. That's for other videos. Not that I would talk about personal stuff. Grian flew over the trees. The cries of Mumbo and Beat-Ups, who had seen him fly off, had long since faded. He knew he'd have a lot of explaining to do, but he'd hoped just seeing what was going on would be enough as he glided closer and closer to Impulse's base, noticing it appeared untouched, at least from this angle, as he landed on top of a tree, looking down at the area through the windows. The place seemed quiet, almost too quiet. There was no sign of Mistray's men outside. The YouTuber swallowed as he thought of the possibilities. The men weren't here, and the Dray was just a bluff. They were inside, hadn't come yet, or they'd cornered Impulse somewhere wasn't home. He hoped it wasn't the last option, because he wasn't sure how he'd be able to help his friend if he couldn't find him. Suddenly, as he cut there, he heard an explosion as the glass shattered as someone was thrown out of the new hole that was created. Their cry piercing the air as they hit the ground hard. Grian could tell right away that it wasn't one of Mistray's men. As the figures slowly stood up, shaking themselves off, they painfully ran themselves off. As they painfully ran towards one of the doors, as another scream could be heard inside. Grian instinctively leapt into the air once more as he flew towards the hole. He flew into the room in time to see what was left of it. Three of Mistray's men were standing on some platforms. It was an obsidian block standing in the middle of the room. The men stared at him in momentarily surprise as the YouTuber heard a cry from below. Before the three men could do anything to stop him, he jumped down from the platform he'd landed on to the floor below to see one of the men had pinned his friend to the floor just as he saw Blake charging in. Grian swooped around the land behind the escort just as Blake tackled the man, pulling him away from his charge. "Can you get Impulse out of here for me?" And Blake called over to him. His expression was firm. "I can." Grian nodded as he ran over to his friend, just as he saw the three men meet them, blocking one of the exits. "I'm fine," Impulse insisted weakly, coughing as Grian helped him to his feet. His friend was leaning on him, his gaze avoiding his, as Grian looked over at the men as they charged toward them. He pulled his friend behind him, pulling out his bow and arrow as the men faltered. "Get any closer, I dare you," Grian warned. As he narrowed his eyes, his fourth man slipped away from Blake as the escort turned to stand beside Grian. "You can only shoot one of us with that thing," one of the men chuckled. "The rest of us can just tackle you down and stop this nonsense from good." "Not on my watch," Blake said defiantly. So, the man asked as he looked over at Grian. "And where's your protector? Isn't he meant to be helping you?" "That's none of your business," Grian said with a lump formed in his throat. The image of the man's figure disappearing with a puff of smoke still echoed in his mind as he pushed back tears. They hadn't been necessarily close, but they had appreciated the company and the promise that the man had kept to the end. "Besides, my friends are on their way. You're no match against us." "Oh, really?" the man asked, "even though we disabled the connection?" "I'm smart enough to know your games," Grian said confidently. "I'm not letting you hurt my friends." The man chuckled. "See, that's rather unfortunate. No, this has to be this way." Grian felt a breeze enter the room as he looked back, noticing Impulse had managed to get himself over to a window as he looked over to the two of them, almost expectantly. Grian glanced over at Blake, who seemed to understand, and the man nodded as the YouTuber looked back. "I'll give you one more chance to back out," Grian said in a warning tone. "You don't get to make the rule, YouTuber," one of the men snapped as he lunged over to the window towards Impulse. Grian let go of the arrow, hitting the man as he screamed in pain, falling to the floor as the other three lunged to attack. Grian stumbled back, shooting another shot as he hit another man, who cried out in pain before he put away his bow. Watching his Impulse stepped out of the window as he followed him. I knew you'd come, Impulse said with a small smile. Yeah, Grian nodded. I wish you could have come sooner, but I was a bit busy. Impulse returned the nod as he stumbled away from the house, looking back as he did so, gasping in surprise as he ducked, just as an enderpearl whizzed over his head as Grian pulled him back as it shattered. The main man stood before them with a smile, taking a step towards him. Blake? Impulse said wearily as he stumbled backwards as the man lunged at him. Grian pulling his friend aside as he launched them into the air and glided to the trees. Grian looked back to see that the man had turned to face them, anger in his eyes as he threw something at them as Grian gestured for them to jump to another tree. Where are the others you spoke about? Impulse asked as he stumbled to another tree, Grian pulling him back from the edge. They should be coming. Grian said quietly as he looked back as another pearl launched into the air, landing next to them as the man lunged as soon as he appeared, grabbing Impulse who screamed as he fell to the ground. Grian called out as he jumped down after them, grabbing at the man just as an arrow flew from above and hit the man as he grunted in pain. Grian pulled him off as he rolled limply onto the grass as he went over to his friend, who was groaning in pain. Okay, Impulse repeated as he looked up at his friend. But Grian could see that it wasn't okay. None of this was okay. As he helped his friend sit up, he could hear footsteps from behind and ahead. As he looked up, seeing the last man disappearing off into the trees, chased by Blake and another escort. A few other escorts were dealing with the group inside. Another to the cause member that had taken the responsibility of dealing with the man nearby. Hang on, Grian said quickly as he pulled out the white shulker box as he put it down, taking out a regeneration potion as he handed it to his friend. Thank you, Impulse said gratefully as he opened it and consumed the contents, leaning against a nearby tree as he looked up at the sky above. That was terrifying. I know, Grian agreed quietly as he sat down next to his friend as he heard someone approach. You two alright? Beatup's voice asked as Grian looked over at the YouTuber. We're fine, Impulse said confidently as he smiled. Good, Beatup nodded in relief. Sorry I ran off like that, Grian sighed as he looked over the steam mumbo nearby. That's a good reason, the Yearman mused with a smile. Good enough for me. Grian nodded as he looked away from his friend and down to the grassy floor. He could hear the conversations happening around him, but he couldn't quite hear them. His mind had wandered off as everything that had happened finally came to him. Grian? Impulse's voice asked quietly, bringing the YouTuber's attention away. You sure you're okay? A lot has happened, honestly, Grian admitted, shaking his head. Sure your escort will be here soon, right? Beatup asked. Grian shook his head. He won't be coming back. Why, did he? Beatup started. Impulse started but stopped. Started to say it but stopped. No, he did what he was supposed to do. Until the very end. Grian said quietly, sitting there for a moment before an arm was wrapped around him. He looked over at his friend, looking into those eyes. You seem to be proud of what you did. Impulse said with a smile. Grian nodded. Yeah, I guess. We'll find someone to help you, Beatup said encouragingly. I just know it. Finding someone isn't hard, Grian agreed. It's finding the right kind of people. That's the real challenge. You've got us, mumbled Wilford, Grian looking up in surprise, wondering how or when he'd come over to them. Grian smiled and nodded, noticing Blake walking over to the inner direction. The young man had definitely proven himself today. He was sure it wouldn't be too difficult to give Liam a call and help him out somehow. It would be quick, and better than nothing, especially now when every corner they turned seemed deadly. No one was safe. There's a long way to go before then. He knew that. Maybe someday things would be peaceful and safe again. Until then, he would wait, planning for the next attack. He would be ready. They all would. They had to be. Fortunately, this is going to be the end for now. Will there be more? Probably. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. And no, I don't even have any sneak peeks for you. Bye.